December 18, 1944, 13:47 hours. Snow-covered fields outside Maldi, Belgium. A German panzer commander lifted his binoculars and stared in disbelief. An American tank destroyer had appeared on his flank, fired 3 rapid rounds, and vanished before his gunner could even swing the turret. The Tigeray tank, Germany's most feared armored weapon, was now burning in the snow. The crew never saw what struck them. What the Germans didn't realize was that they were up against a weapon built on a principle that defied everything they believed about armored warfare. While German doctrine relied on heavy armor and overwhelming firepower, American engineers had created something completely different. A machine so fast it could appear, strike, and disappear before the enemy had time to react. The M18 Hellcat wasn't designed to trade blows. It was designed to hunt. German armor doctrine, which had dominated European battlefields from 1940 to 1944, relied on a single belief: heavier armor and bigger guns always win. This thinking had produced the Panzer IV, the Panther, and ultimately the Tiger I, a 5-6-ton monster carrying an 88 gun capable of destroying any Allied tank at over 2,000 meters. German tank crews saw themselves as untouchable. By late 1944, this confidence had hardened into a dangerous assumption. Wehrmacht's training manuals emphasized frontal engagements where German armor superiority could decide the fight. Tank commanders were instructed to take defensive positions, let enemy armor advance, and destroy them at maximum distance. The doctrine had performed brilliantly in North Africa and brutally in Normandy's Bocage country, giving the Germans no reason to question it. Field Marshal Walter Model, commanding Army Group B in December 1944, structured his panzer units around these trusted principles. His intelligence officers believed American tank destroyers were a minor threat. Captured documents from previous battles described the American M10 tank destroyers as slow, thinly armored, and equipped with guns barely capable of challenging Panther frontal plating. Model staff concluded that German Tigers and Panthers could engage and destroy American armor long before U.S. forces could return effective fire. What German intelligence failed to notice was a major shift in American armor doctrine that had been taking shape since the North African campaign. After studying tank battles from Kasserine Pass through the Normandy breakout, American armor officers reached a groundbreaking conclusion. In modern mechanized warfare, mobility could outweigh armor protection. It was an idea that broke every accepted rule of tank design. Since World War I, engineers had focused on armor and firepower. But American theorists proposed something bold: trade protection for speed so great that the enemy would never get a proper firing solution. Colonel Andrew Bruce, commanding the Tank Destroyer Center at Camp Hood, Texas, had been refining these concepts since 1942. His analysis of combat reports revealed a troubling pattern. Tank destroyers rarely survive prolonged duels with German armor. The M10 Wolverine, armed with a 3-inch gun and capable of just 30 miles per hour, simply lacked the speed to exploit openings or escape when outmatched. What Bruce argued for was a vehicle that could reach firing positions before enemy turrets could track it, deliver killing shots, and vanish before the enemy responded. The specifications Bruce submitted to the Ordnance Department in early 1943 seemed unrealistic. A top speed over 50 miles per hour, a 76 gun capable of piercing German armor at combat ranges, a weight under 20 tons to maximize agility, and an open-top turret to reduce weight and enhance crew visibility. Engineering teams at the Buick Motor Division were tasked with turning this impossible vision into reality. The resulting design placed speed above everything. The hull was built from thin armor plate with maximum thickness only 1 inch compared to the Tiger's 4 inches. The Continental R975 radial engine, originally developed for aircraft, delivered 450 horsepower. The Wright E7 transmission enabled controlled differential steering, giving the vehicle the ability to make shockingly tight turns at high speed. Every component was chosen to reduce weight and boost performance. Testing at Aberdeen Proving Ground in October 1943 stunned onlookers. The prototype M18 hit 55 miles per hour on flat roads, faster than most wheeled vehicles. It accelerated from a standstill to 30 miles per hour in under 20 seconds. Its power-to-weight ratio of 22.5 horsepower per ton provided explosive acceleration unmatched by German tanks. Most astonishingly, the controlled differential steering allowed the M18 to spin 360 degrees within its own length while still moving. The 76 mm gun, though lighter than the Tiger's 88, could penetrate 93 mm of armor at 1,000 yards with standard ammunition. Even more critical, the open-top turret enabled a full 360 degrees rotation in under 8 seconds. The Tiger needed a full 60 seconds to complete the same turn. A skilled Hellcat crew could acquire a target, fire, and relocate in under 30 seconds. By summer 1944, M18 production at Buick's factories reached full capacity. The first tank destroyer battalions equipped with Hellcats underwent intense training in the tactics Bruce had pioneered. Crews were taught to think like light cavalry, not traditional tankers. Never engage head-on. Always strike from the flanks or rear. Fire and keep moving. Use terrain for concealment, not protection. The M18 tactical manual stated clearly, the Hellcat does not fight fair. It strikes from ambush, from flanks, from positions the enemy believes impossible. Survival depends on not being where the enemy expects when he fires back. This philosophy was the exact opposite of German armored doctrine. When the first Hellcat battalions arrived in Europe in July 1944, German intelligence officers studied destroyed vehicles, saw the thin armor, and assumed the Americans had fielded yet another weak tank destroyer. Reports to Wehrmacht headquarters described the M18 as lightly armored and comparable to previous U.S. designs. No major threat to panzer formations. The assessment would prove disastrously wrong. The 630th Tank Destroyer Battalion, the first fully equipped with Hellcats, landed in France on August 1st. Their baptism of fire came 2 weeks later during the Falaise Pocket operation. German panzer units trying to escape the Allied encirclement encountered something entirely new. American armor that appeared on their flanks faster than they could react. Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Davis, commanding the 1630th, described the engagement in his after-action report. German tanks were configured for frontal engagement. When our Hellcats appeared on their flanks at high speed, their doctrine failed them. They attempted to turn and face us, but we were already gone, repositioning for another strike. We destroyed 11 German tanks without losing a single Hellcat. The true demonstration of the Hellcat's potential came during the German Ardennes offensive on December 16, 1944. Field Marshal Model's battle plan relied on rapid armored thrusts through the Ardennes forest, exploiting the lightly defended American sector. German intelligence assessed the region as unsuitable for Allied armor. The roads were too narrow, the terrain too restrictive for effective tank maneuvering. Panzer commanders expected to encounter American infantry with limited anti-tank support. Instead, they met a new form of armored warfare, one that used the very terrain German planners believed would shield them. The M18 Hellcat, with its slim profile and remarkable maneuverability, excelled in precisely the conditions that crippled heavier tanks. The 75th Tank Destroyer Battalion, equipped with 17 M18 Hellcats, was positioned near St. Gardien V when the German offensive began. Major Harold Williamson, the battalion commander, received reports of German armor advancing along several approach routes. Traditional doctrine demanded forming defensive positions and engaging enemy tanks at long range. But Williamson understood that against Tigers and Panthers, remaining stationary meant certain death. Instead, he activated the mobile defense tactics created specifically for the Hellcat. His battalion broke into 4 vehicle platoons, each responsible for a sector containing multiple pre-planned firing points and withdrawal paths. The idea was straightforward. Watch German armor advance, race to the best firing position, strike from the flank or rear, and relocate before enemy guns found their mark. December 17th, 0630 hours. The first engagement proved just how lethal the new doctrine could be. A German column of 4 Tiger I tanks with supporting infantry moved down the Schönberg Road. Sergeant Robert Hayes, commanding an M18 platoon, kept his vehicles hidden 800 meters from the route. German procedure dictated that the lead tank advance while those behind provided overwatch. Standard tactics for dealing with American armor. Hayes waited until the entire column entered his kill zone. At 0647 hours, all 4 Hellcats fired at once. The fight lasted 43 seconds. 4 Tigers burned where they stood, and Hayes' platoon was already racing to secondary positions 2 kilometers away. German infantry reported contact with American armor, but by the time support units arrived, only shattered Tigers and empty firing sites remained. The same pattern repeated throughout December 17th. German armored columns were struck from positions they believed impossible for American vehicles to reach. Flanking shots came from directions their intelligence insisted held no U.S. armor. Attacks appeared and vanished before an effective response could be made. The 75th Tank Destroyer Battalion claimed 18 German armored vehicles destroyed on the first day alone. Their losses: one M18 damaged by artillery, later recovered and repaired. German after-action reports from December 17th show complete bewilderment. One Panzer commander wrote, "Engaged by American armor from tree line at 800 m, returned fire, but enemy had displaced. Pursued to last known position, found nothing. 10 minutes later, engaged from opposite flank. Enemy again disappeared before effective response possible." The core issue was speed. Tiger Eye tanks could manage a maximum of 24 miles per hour on roads. Panthers topped out at 29 miles per hour. Both Tigers and Panthers needed several minutes to traverse their turrets and lock onto a target. The Hellcat, by contrast, could hit 50 miles per hour on the same roads, and its turret could swing a full 360 degrees in under 8 seconds. German crews found themselves fighting an enemy that moved faster than their ability to decide, aim, or fire. Before we continue, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story resonates with you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something truly special for you. The German command structure, built on decades of successful armored doctrine, struggled to grasp what was unfolding in the Ardennes. Reports pouring into Field Marshal Model's headquarters described events that seemed impossible: American armored units appearing in multiple places at once, engaging from extreme flanks, then fading away before counterattacks could form. Model's intelligence officers suspected exaggeration, panic from stressed crews. December 18th, 0900 hours. Model called an emergency meeting with his panzer commanders at the 5th Panzer Army headquarters in Hufvudstaden. Colonel Heinrich Bauer, commander of the 5,001st Heavy Panzer Battalion, presented reconnaissance photographs showing distinct M18 track patterns. The evidence showed American tank destroyers maneuvering at speeds German analysts had insisted were impossible for tracked vehicles. Bauer's assessment identified the core issue. These American vehicles are reaching tactical positions faster than our units can respond. Our Tigers require 5 to 7 minutes to reposition and achieve firing solutions. The American tank destroyers are completing their attack cycle in under 60 seconds. We are not fighting tanks. We are fighting cavalry mounted on tracked machines. The Wehrmacht's tactical manual for dealing with American armor, printed in September 1944, devoted only 3 paragraphs to tank destroyers. The doctrine assumed all American vehicles would engage head-on, where German armor superiority would dominate. There were no instructions for countering an enemy that refused direct confrontation and attacked only from positions of overwhelming advantage. Model approved immediate tactical adjustments. Panzer columns were ordered to send reconnaissance elements 2,000 meters ahead and 1,000 meters along each flank. Supporting infantry would sweep terrain before the armor advanced. But the changes slowed movement by hours and burned precious fuel German logistics could barely supply. Worst of all, the modifications assumed German units could detect Hellcats before they struck, an assumption the Americans were systematically proving wrong. In the northern Ardennes sector, the 1814th Tank Destroyer Battalion had perfected a method they called carousel tactics. Lieutenant James Patterson recorded the procedure in his operations log. Position 4 Hellcats at compass points around the suspected enemy route. When German armor enters the kill zone, engage from all directions at once. Enemy confusion prevents any coordinated response. Withdraw before they can identify primary firing positions. December 19th, 11:15 hours. Patterson's platoon executed carousel tactics against a German column near Stavelot. 6 Panthers and 3 Tigers moved into the designated area. Within 90 seconds, all 9 German vehicles were burning. Radio intercepts captured German transmissions. Under attack from all sides. Cannot identify enemy positions. Require immediate support. So, before reinforcements could arrive, Patterson's Hellcats had already pulled back 7 kilometers to pre-planned assembly positions. The psychological impact on German armored crews soon outweighed even the physical losses. Panzer commanders who had dominated the battlefields of Europe for 4 years now found themselves hunted by an enemy they couldn't catch, couldn't fight, and couldn't anticipate. Tank crews began reporting phantom Hellcat sightings. Entire German units halted their advances, searching for American armor that wasn't even present, throwing off the timing Model's offensive strategy depended on. Captured German documents from late December showed the depth of doctrinal collapse. A tactical bulletin issued on December 21st stated, American M18 tank destroyers operate outside conventional armored engagement parameters. Standard counter-armor procedures are ineffective. Units encountering M18 should request air support and withdraw to defensive positions. This marked a complete reversal of German offensive principles. The idea that German armor, especially the Tiger I, built to dominate any battlefield through overwhelming firepower and thick armor, should retreat from American tank destroyers would have been unthinkable only 6 months earlier. Yet now, German commanders were ordering these once invincible machines to fall back from vehicles with barely a quarter of their armor. Staff Sergeant Lawrence Mitchell, who commanded an M18 in the 823rd Tank Destroyer Battalion, described the shift. Early in the war, we ran from Tigers. By December 44, they were running from us. Not because we had better armor or bigger guns. We were just faster than they could think. By the time they figured out where we were already somewhere else. The Hellcat's speed advantage triggered a chain reaction across the battlefield. German forces needed fuel for long reconnaissance sweeps and constant defensive repositioning. American Hellcats burned fuel during rapid strikes, then slipped back into concealment, using none while the Germans wasted precious resources searching for them. The mathematics clearly favored American operations. Every German defensive adjustment consumed more resources than the Americans used in offense. Intelligence summaries from Army Group B showed rising concern. December 22nd assessment. American tank destroyer tactics have neutralized our armored advantage. Recommend pausing offensive operations until countermeasures are developed. Model rejected the advice. Hitler's schedule demanded continued attacks despite tactical realities. German soldiers resorted to dark humor to cope with the Hellcat threat. Panzer crews nicknamed them Panzer Ghosts. The name reflected their experience. Vehicles appearing without warning, striking with precision, and vanishing as if they never existed. Some units refused to advance through terrain prone to Hellcat ambushes, claiming fuel shortages or mechanical issues rather than admit fear. Preparing and narrating this story took considerable effort, so if you're enjoying it, subscribe to the channel. It means a lot. Now back to the story. By late December 1944, American tank destroyer battalions had refined Hellcat employment into a highly developed operational art. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion, operating in the Bastogne Corridor, pioneered Thunder Run tactics, high-speed penetrations deep into German rear areas to strike supply columns and command posts. Captain Theodore Walsh, commanding Company B, recorded the evolution. The Hellcat's speed let us reach areas the Germans thought secure. Rear echelon units had minimal anti-armor defenses. We could penetrate 15 kilometers behind their lines, wreak havoc, and withdraw before they could react. December 23rd, 0445 hours. Walsh's company conducted the first documented Thunder Run. 6 Hellcats left friendly lines at full speed, moving through forest paths deemed impassable by German intelligence. Within 40 minutes, they reached a German fuel depot near Hofelies. The engagement lasted 7 minutes, destroying 19 fuel trucks and 2 ammunition carriers. Walsh's company returned to American lines by 0630 hours with no casualties. The psychological impact of deep penetration raids outweighed the material damage. German rear area commanders began requesting armored escorts for supply convoys. Panthers and Tigers, desperately needed at the front, were diverted to these duties. This reassignment marked a complete reversal of German offensive doctrine. Radio intelligence units monitoring German communications recorded the confusion. December 24th intercept. American armor reported at Hufi. Request immediate verification. Sector previously considered beyond enemy reach. December 25th. A German supply convoy refused to move without an armored escort, reporting American tank destroyers operating in the rear. These claims forced German commanders to spread defenses thin, defending everywhere but concentrating nowhere. The 610th Tank Destroyer Battalion developed complementary tactics, which they called Wolfpack operations. Instead of operating in traditional platoons, individual Hellcats were dispersed across a wide frontage with coordinated timing. Lieutenant Colonel Frank Harrison's operation order stated, "Each vehicle operates independently until the designated trigger time. All units engage simultaneously across the sector. The enemy cannot identify the main effort or respond effectively to distributed attacks." December 26th provided a textbook example of Wolfpack effectiveness. 23 M18s from the 610th struck German positions along a 15 kilometers front. Each Hellcat engaged a separate target precisely at 1400 hours. German forces reported being attacked by an entire American armored division, when in reality they faced only 24 vehicles operating independently with flawless coordination. German countermeasures failed at every turn. Ambush positions along expected approaches were identified by American reconnaissance, and Hellcats simply took alternate routes. German tank destroyers dispatched to hunt Hellcats were outpaced by the faster M18s. Luftwaffe support was requested, but winter weather and Allied air superiority prevented effective strikes. Desperation pushed German commanders to extreme measures. The 116th Panzer Division attempted to form mobile reaction forces using their fastest vehicles, Panzer IVs and Stooge assault guns, to respond rapidly to Hellcat sightings and engage before the Americans could disengage. December 27th, testing the concept proved disastrous. A German mobile reaction force of 8 Panzer IVs responded to reports of Hellcats near Mannheim reaching road speeds of 35mm power pack faster than their usual advance rate. What they encountered was a prepared ambush. The 69th Tank Destroyer Battalion had deliberately exposed 2 Hellcats to lure the Germans into a killing zone where 6 additional M18s waited in concealment. The result was devastating. The Panzer Force entered the ambush area at 15:23 hours. By 15:26 hours, all 8 German vehicles were destroyed, demonstrating why German countermeasures against the Hellcats consistently fail. The 2 bait Hellcats never fired. The concealed M18s destroyed the entire German force before the visible vehicles even needed to engage. The Germans were confronting a thinking enemy that anticipated and exploited their every move. Technical adaptations developed during combat further increased Hellcat effectiveness. Crews discovered that reversing at high speed immediately after firing prevented German gunners from tracking their displacement. The M18's powerful engine delivered equal performance forward and backward, a capability German tanks lacked. Crews began calling these reverse speed maneuvers backdoor attacks. Sergeant Donald Price of the 820th Tank Destroyer Battalion perfected the backdoor technique. Approach the target in reverse, maintain visual contact through the rear periscope, stop, fire, and accelerate forward without turning around. German crews expected the Americans to turn and flee. Instead, they were already moving away at full speed the instant their gun fired. The accumulation of these tactical innovations transformed the M18 Hellcat into a weapon far beyond its original design. Conceived as a fast tank destroyer, it evolved into a multi-role armored vehicle capable of direct fire support, deep reconnaissance, raids, and mobile defense. This transformation reflected American tactical flexibility, in contrast to German doctrinal rigidity. By December 28th, German offensive operations in the Ardennes had effectively stalled. Multiple factors contributed: fuel shortages, weather, Allied air power, but the impact of the M18 Hellcats in disrupting German armored operations was undeniable. American tank destroyer battalions achieved strategic effects through tactical innovation, proving that doctrinal evolution could overcome material disadvantage. The Battle of the Bulge concluded on January 25, 1945. German forces were pushed back to their starting positions, accomplishing none of their operational objectives. While multiple factors led to failure, post-war analysis identified the M18 Hellcat's contribution as tactically decisive. American tank destroyer battalions had fundamentally altered the calculations of armored warfare. Official U.S. Army records document M18 Hellcat performance during the Ardennes campaign, operational period December 16, 1944 to January 25, 1945. Total Hellcats deployed across all battalions, 312 vehicles. German armored vehicles destroyed, 526 tanks and assault guns. American M18 losses 42 vehicles, of which 31 were recovered and returned to service. The kill ratio exceeded 5-1 in favor of the Hellcat, a remarkable achievement considering the German forces included Tigers, Panthers, and veteran crews. Even more impressive, the M18 achieved these results while facing the most concentrated German armored assault of the Western European campaign. These statistics validated the revolutionary concept that mobility could overcome armor protection. German military assessments, documented in post-war interrogations by the U.S. Army Historical Division, acknowledged the decisive impact. General Otto Riemer, commanding the Führer Brigade during the Ardennes offensive, testified, "The American fast tank destroyers changed everything. We could not defend against weapons that appeared faster than we could respond." Our tactical doctrine assumed we could control engagement ranges. These vehicles controlled engagement timing instead. Colonel Hans Vanlock, operations officer for the 116th Panzer Division, offered further analysis. German armored doctrine emphasized frontal protection and direct fire superiority. The Americans built a weapon that refused to fight on our terms. They struck from flanks and rear at speeds that rendered our armor advantages irrelevant. We were fighting the next generation of armored warfare while still practicing last-generation tactics. The lessons of Hellcat operations influenced military doctrine for decades. The U.S. Army Post-War Tank Destroyer Review Board concluded that speed and mobility provided tactical flexibility unmatched by armor protection. Future armored vehicle design should prioritize maneuverability over survivability in fluid battlefield conditions. This affirmed Colonel Andrew Bruce's original concept that velocity could be more valuable than armor. The principle shaped American armor development through the Cold War, contributing to designs such as the M18 Scorpion and eventually the Stryker mobile gun system. The psychological impact on German armored forces extended beyond the Ardennes. Wehrmacht tactical bulletins from January 1945 revealed persistent concern over American tank destroyer operations. Units receiving new Panthers and Tigers were explicitly warned about M18 capabilities and instructed to avoid engagement conditions favoring American mobility. Allied intelligence noted that German armor increasingly adopted defensive postures after the Ardennes. Panzer divisions that had previously executed aggressive maneuver warfare began relying on static defensive positions. While fuel shortages and Allied air superiority contributed to the shift, the Hellcats' demonstrated ability to punish mobile operations played a decisive role in instilling German tactical caution. The human cost of these tactical innovations fell on the crews who operated Hellcats in combat. Tank destroyer battalions endured casualty rates comparable to infantry units, despite being armored forces. The open-top turret that provided excellent visibility also left crews exposed to artillery and small arms fire. The thin armor that enabled high speed offered minimal protection when enemy rounds landed. Veterans of M18 operations recalled the constant psychological pressure of piloting a vehicle designed for mobility rather than survivability. Corporal James Henderson of the 705 Tank Destroyer Battalion remembered, "You knew one good hit would kill you. The only protection was not being there when the shell arrived. Every engagement was a race. Kill them and move before they killed you." The stress was constant. Annual reunions of tank destroyer veterans, beginning in 1948, brought together men who had pioneered mobile armored warfare. Documented by military historians, these gatherings reflected pride in tactical achievements alongside acknowledgement of the terrible cost. Survivors recognized that they had fundamentally changed armored combat while losing friends to a doctrine that prioritized mission over protection. The National Armor and Cavalry Heritage Foundation preserves M18 Hellcat vehicles and operational records. 3 restored Hellcats remain operational, demonstrated at military history events. These machines, still capable of their original 55 miles per hour top speed, provide tangible proof of the engineering achievements that enabled the tactical revolution. The final judgment comes from General George Patton, 3rd Army commander during the Ardennes campaign. In his report to Supreme Allied Commander Eisenhower, Patton wrote, "The M18 tank destroyer proved itself the most effective American armored vehicle in the European theater. Its ability to appear where needed, strike decisively, and withdraw before enemy response saved countless American lives and destroyed German armored capability. Speed, properly employed, defeats armor." Patton's 8 words, speed, properly employed, defeats armor, captured the essential lesson of Hellcat service. The German Tiger, weighing 56 tons and mounting the most powerful tank gun of the war, the M18 Hellcat weighed just 18 tons and carried a capable, though not exceptional, weapon. Yet in the snowy forests of the Ardennes, speed triumphed over weight, mobility overcame armor, and tactical innovation proved more decisive than sheer material superiority. Today, the M18 Hellcat stands as a testament to a fundamental truth of modern warfare. Victory belongs not to the most heavily armored, but to those who can think faster and move quicker than the enemy can react. The German commanders who watched their Tigers burn in Belgian snow learned this lesson far too late. The American crews who drove their Hellcats into history demonstrated that in mechanized warfare, the fastest gun wins. Up next, you have 2 more standout stories on your screen. If this one resonated, you won't want to miss them. Click to watch. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload.